Okay. So, yeah, INSEAD versus Cambridge slash US colleges. Very, very quick input there, guys. So, point one is that, see, it's not a question of US versus Europe. But there are good colleges in Europe. There are good colleges in US. There are bad colleges in Europe. There are bad colleges in US. So it's rather a question of what are the specific universities and program you're going to, right? So that is the most important point rather than worrying too much about that, hey, you know what, is INSEAD better than Wharton or not? That's point one. Point two is that business schools or MBA or MS programs, they move in a certain sphere, right? Sphere means, for example, if you go to INSEAD or if you go to Wharton, then they are essentially same spheres, right? They give you predominantly similar type of opportunities. I'm saying similar, not exact same. Okay. So they give similar type of opportunities. But if you go to INSEAD, vis-a-vis if you go to, like, let's say a 50th ranked business school in US, then of course the type of opportunities that you will get at INSEAD, those would be much better. So it becomes a question of that, hey, which specific university you're going rather than which specific region you're going, right? You're 30 plus, do you recommend doing one abroad as a double MBA? When you are 30 plus years and have done with one MBA, do you recommend doing another as a double MBA? So Puneet, that depends on what you want to do next. Just to tell you, like some of the clients that I've worked with in the past, I worked with a person, he graduated from IIM Calcutta, right? And then he ended up going to London Business School. The reason was very simple, that he wanted to shift to London, right? Then there was another person I worked with. He graduated from XLRI, which is again a very good college in India. And then he ended up applying and getting through Chicago Booth Business School. The reason was that he wanted to work as an investment banker in New York. So that is a very important point that you must remember. Could you make basic finance terms video for non? Wonderful idea, Rupanshi. I'll 100% make a video on that, right? Please ping me once, right? I mean, if you don't see that video in another 20 odd days, but that's an excellent suggestion. I will 100% make a video on that. MA Economics in USA. Yes, so MA Economics in USA is also good, right? There is nothing wrong. The only issue with economics degrees of pursuing like core liberal arts degrees in the US for Indian students is that the number of jobs are very few, because if you take a look at the recruitment for international candidates, then it becomes a slight issue, right? In the sense that they either work in banking or consulting, then majority of them end up picking MBA candidates, right? So that's a problem, right? So keep that in mind. Though MA in economics is good, but working in think tanks, there are very few think tank jobs. Working at large international firms like World Bank, IMF, they anyway hire MBA and PP. So it is a problem from that angle. How's University of Toronto? It's very good. Jadu. Possible to complete masters in 30 lakhs? Yes, it is possible. In fact, I worked with a client. He ended up going to Darden and he had a 100% scholarship. So yeah, right. I'll just quickly check. See you live on phone. Okay. So guys, I think Akansha is having some trouble in terms of joining, unfortunately. So I will, in case it doesn't get sorted in 2 minutes, then I'll do the live session myself. Right, that's not a problem. I'll explain you the agenda, but just hold on for 2 minutes. All right, so that was about my introduction. So Akansha, I'll introduce the agenda again. So essentially, we are speaking about 5 topics. We'll try to wrap it up in like 20-25 minutes. So our introductions, I've introduced myself. Then we will talk about building profile for business schools. What are some key points in mind? We'll talk a little bit about GMAT and importance of GMAT. Then some good admissions practice and some very good interview practice, right? So that's what we are going to talk about. Very quick introduction about Akansha, that she actually worked with me. And I'm super proud of the fact that we started like a long time back, in the sense that she kept improving her profile, right? So it's very easy to come from like a super solid IIT XYZ 9.98 Goldman Sachs background, 780 GMAT and getting everywhere. But there are a lot of candidates who just assume that, you know what, we are not good enough and we can't get through because we have some issue on our profile. But when you see these stories playing out, people making it to top 10, it gives you belief that, you know, people can do it, right? So Akansha's story is inspirational from that angle. So I'll let her introduce herself. And if you can walk us through your journey, give a very quick introduction of where you have worked and which colleges did you apply to and your entire timeline of applying to business schools.
So I'll just start with by talking about my professional background. So I've been working in the publishing industry for the past almost 7 years now. Currently, I work with Infodesk. So what I essentially do is prepare research reports, industrial insights, and newsletters for my clients. And before that, I worked with an academic publisher, and I also had a brief stint with an oilfield service provider. A little bit of background about my education. I did my undergrad and postgrad from University of Petroleum and Energy Studies. And by the way, somebody had asked about second MBA. I also would be going for my second MBA. I originally had my first MBA in oil and gas management. So my journey for applications started back in early 2018 when I decided that I want to take GMAT and see how I can do in MBA applications. Took about 3 attempts to get a decent score. It was still not a very good score, but I thought it'll be better to just go ahead with it. By the time I got done with GMAT, it was already time for round two applications for most of the schools. So I prepared my applications in a lot of haste. I was very, very underconfident. I had not, of course, met you, Akshat, by then. I was actually working with somebody else, and yeah, basically, the person also suggested me on the basis of my profile, because it's a very unconventional profile, moving from publishing to business and then, to other industries. The person kind of encouraged me to only apply to, the the colleges from 40 to 50 sort of rank. So that's what I essentially did. I applied to 3 colleges, got in one, and kind of thanked my stars. I was not even, bogged down with it. I thought it's done. I'll now move ahead to the next steps. But that's the time when I was kind of looking for some good advice from other people. And that's when I got to talk to you. Because my husband was already working with you on applications, and he told me you should definitely talk to Akshat. He'll give you a good advice. And I'm really thankful that I did. You sort of told me how important it is for international students, especially, to get into as good a school as possible in terms of ranks. We built up our profiles. My profile, I was very underconfident when I spoke to you the first time. You must be remembering that. We sort of worked on it. The one thing that I really dreaded when I spoke to you was you kind of suggested me to give another 1 or 1.5 months to my GMAT and sort of take it once again. But I'm glad I did, because I improved it by 20 points, and it kind of gave me a base to apply to certain ranks of schools. So good advice there. Thank you so much, Akshat. And talking about the schools that I applied to 5 schools at that time. I applied to Darden, USC Marshall, Georgetown, Georgia Tech, and Notre Dame. So apart from Darden and USC, the other 3 schools I felt that I was competitive enough for. And of course, Darden and USC were kind of my reach schools. I got waitlisted after interviews in both of them, and I got in all the other 3 schools, which was great. I even had good scholarships there, and I decided to go with Georgia Tech because I really liked the vibe of the alums and current students. So community is very important for me while choosing any B school. So that's the reason I chose Georgia Tech. But then COVID happened, and my plans kind of tanked at that point. And so I decided to take a deferral. So the third time around, I was very, very confident. One, because I already had a school, I had an admit, and it was great because I had 100% scholarship from there, so nothing to worry about those things. But I still wanted to try to apply to a higher ranked school. Duke felt like a moonshot for me. Honestly, but I had a personal motivation as well to apply to Duke because my husband went to Duke. So I did, and I got
All right.
waitlisted by the way after my interview, but I made it in round two. So yeah.
Wonderful. So thanks so much, Akansha, for that lovely introduction and saying good things. And I work with Akansha and her husband Rohan, right? And both are going to Duke. So I'm super happy from that angle. And important points, right? So Akansha, if you feel comfortable, you can disclose your GMAT also, right? If that is okay with you.
Sure.
Otherwise, you can avoid the question, not an issue.
No problem, no problem. I got a 730, so it's not something to be ashamed about, but not to boast either. But yeah, it was 730, and initially it was 710 when I started working with you.
Wonderful. So folks, I'll take a minute to summarize and illustrate key points here, right? So, number one key point that Akansha did not come from a conventional background, right? For example, I come from a conventional background at BCG, all that, right? So, and a lot of people have that easier to get into business school. I will not lie, right? There's no point in denying that helps. But on the flip side, right? I mean, if you go and look at the journey of a lot of unconventional candidates, they assume that, you know what, our profiles are bad. We are very happy going to a 50th rank school or 40th rank school. That is what happened with Akansha also, in a way, indirectly, because you end up getting a lot of negative advice, right, from that perspective. Now, I have been extremely vocal of the fact, and this is something that I've written excessively on public forums also, that if you are an international student, please do not go outside schools which are ranked outside top 30, right? In the US or anywhere in the world. The reason is very simple that as an international student, you already have a lot of struggle. Now, if you unnecessarily go to a bad program, then you graduate, then you don't end up getting a job, then you say that, you know what, MBAs are bad. No, the problem is not that the MBA is bad. The problem is that you're going to a school which is not good for getting jobs, right? So that's point number two that I want you to take away from this very interesting story. Point number three, you might say that, you know what, Akshat, you're just bringing one person who is an exception. She improved her profile, worked for like 2-3 years, improved her profile, got into Duke. This is not an anomaly, right? I mean, there are every year that I work with candidates. I'm happy to share their names also, right? For example, you might have seen one of the videos with my client Eklavya, right? So Eklavya also had a very similar story, right? I mean, he started out working. He initially applied to like few Canadian schools. Then next year he got into ISB. Then he improved his profile more. Then he is currently at. He just graduated from Columbia Business School. He in fact is getting married. He invited me like last week to his marriage. So the point I'm trying to tell you is that this is not an anomaly, right? That people actually improve their profile and get through, right? So that is, these are some key points that I want you to sort of keep in mind when you start thinking about your MBA plans. That go to a good business school, go to the best possible business school you can get into. You will have certain weaknesses. Second MBA, unconventional profile, whatever it is, it does not matter from that perspective. Highlight and improve upon your weakness. That is going to be the key. And you need to keep improving your profile. We will talk more about how to improve your profile on subsequent section. But just take these key takeaways. That is very important. Okay. Now, we have already spoken a little bit about the GMAT. So Akansha had a 730 right at the time she applied, and she had a 730. When she approached me, she had a 710. So the reason why I advised her to get a 730 was very simple. That given her profile, that she was unconventional, she already had few weaknesses on her profile. Hitting a 720, 730 would have put her at the median range for majority of the schools, right? So that was the reason why I said let's get a 730. In several other cases, we end up discussing that, 710 is enough, right? For some candidates. For some candidates can even get in with a 650. That's not a problem. You need to understand, look at your profile and improve accordingly. That's part A. Part B. Most likely exit option for Akansha post Duke is going to be consulting, right? That is like consulting will be a big recruitment sort of a vertical for her once she graduates. So it's not just a question of getting into business school, but also getting a job post business school. So if she has a good GMAT, right, then it helps her in terms of consulting recruitment also. So this advice was given keeping that point in mind, right? So I just wanted to explain the rationale behind it, because many a times you'll see that, Akansha had a 730, I need to get a 730. Maybe not, right? So please keep that in mind. Now over to Akansha, right? Akansha, in terms of like your profile. So number one, why did you feel that your profile was weak, and what were some of the key things that you started doing when you subsequently applied, right, in successive intakes to improve your profile, right? Some keynotes there.
Sure. So why I thought my profile was weak was, first of all, through all the GMAT or MBA forums, I got a sense of the backgrounds of people usually who apply. So I started kind of comparing my background to them and kind of got bogged down. So that was number one. Secondly, in all of my circles, while working in publishing industry, I had not come across any colleague or ex-colleague who had gone to take up an MBA course in US. So I sort of did not have a reference point to kind of gauge myself. So that was another big reason for me to feel underconfident about my profile. But subsequently, when I got into touch with you and you kind of shared that form, wherein I would fill anecdotes from my entire life. So at that point, I started introspecting, digging deep into my profile, and I started realizing that even if I work in a non-conventional industry, I do work in teams. I have moments when I save the day for everyone. I do have certain achievements up my sleeve. So it was important to think on those lines, not care, not put emphasis on what other applicants would look like. I should rather put my effort in, showing what my leadership stories are, what my profile has been about, and that sort of gave me a confidence to write better essays the second time around. So that was one thing that I kind of used. What was your second question?
Roughly this only, that how did your
Okay.
profile improve, right? Subsequently as you applied.
Right. So
So
it's
number one was
so
GMAT
essentially
improvement, so that was clear. And number two, you spoke about the stories got better. So anything else that you did to improve profile?
I think a deep introspection into my own background helped me a lot. So I just started thinking about when I was not even looking at the essays. I was just trying to thinking about what has led me up to this point. What are the things that I've done that I'm probably proud of? What are the things that other have rewarded me for? Or maybe sometimes my boss must have praised me for something. Very, very small things, but I sort of started introspecting on those lines and thinking about what are my leadership stories. Because if you ask somebody just like that, that what sort of leadership roles you've taken up, the person would be caught off guard and would not be able to reply. But once you give it a good thought, and in fact, you might not remember this when you shared that form with me initially. I took good 1.5 months to to fill it and send it back to you because I that's the deep level of introspection that I did with myself, my strengths and weaknesses. And once I had those anecdotes in my mind, preparing my essays got way easier.
Alright. Wonderful. So, very quickly, so I'll quickly summarize what I felt. So, because Akansha is giving like her perspective, right? Because she has gone through the journey herself, so she's giving an applicant's perspective. But I would try to give you a general, broader perspective on how profile development happens, right? So, in Akansha's case, some people are asking that, hey, number of years of work experience improved, so that led to automatic profile improvement. So let me tell you very categorically that business schools do not care too much about your years of work experience. Once you have 3-4 years of work ex at the time of joining the program, it's fine, right? They don't care, right? After that, what they would care more about is the quality of work experience. And I'll explain you the reason why in context of what Akansha just said. Now, the reason why they look at the quality of work experience is very simple. Let's understand this while looking at one of the key essays that is asked at Stanford. So, Stanford has an essay, what matters most to you and why, right? Now, here you are not going to say that my nation matters most to me and here because I'm a citizen of India, right? Hypothetically speaking, and then you tell some story around it. No, you need to give like anecdotal evidence of the work that you have done here, right? Now, when you write this 650, 750 word essay, you need to tell very specific examples from your work as to, for example, you can say that, okay, what matters most to me is contributing to my team, hypothetically speaking, right? Then you need to give specific examples of teamwork, how you have done that, right? In a very concrete manner, right? So it's a strategic exercise from that perspective. So therefore, the introspection that Akansha is talking about, that is important. The type of stories that you pick is very important. What are you picking? Non-redundant stories, right? I mean, for example, if you just keep talking about similar stories in like all your essays, it's pointless, right? So you'll not be able to highlight relevant skills. So doing this level of analysis is very important. This does not come with years of experience. For example, if you have 10 years of experience, it does not mean that automatically your essays will become better. What would matter is that how you have developed profile, what type of experiences you have had, is the quality of experience right? Sometimes, majority of the times, in fact, many candidates assume that the stories that they have, those are bad. But many a times, the stories that you think are bad are the best stories that you have, right? So
Yeah.
please keep these points in mind, and that is the best way I could have explained you about like the quality of work experience versus the quantity of work experience. Once you hit that 2 to 3 years time frame, it's completely okay. You can get into any college, honestly. So, Akansha, do you want to pick any questions, or and then we'll move on to the next section?
So I'm really bad with technology. I'm kind of not able to see
Mm,
many questions.
okay. Yeah. Okay, it's looking good. Okay, so okay, now second MBA GMAT. Did you get an admit from any college? For second MBA through GMAT. Did you get any admit? Yeah, so she's going to Duke. Yes, Sarvesh. So any kind of work experience helps. Can you see how does operations can okay? Yes, so how much years of work experience do you have? So anywhere between 3 to 5 is considered to be good, decent. That is fine. Okay. But again, it's a quality of work experience that matters more. Okay.
And
So,
also, I would like to add one thing on the point of number of years of work experience. In my experience, apart from Duke, it gets, in fact, slightly harder to explain why you want to go with an MBA after having so many years of work experience. So that is kind of a I mean, it gets difficult to explain. So it's not something that's improving our profile, but kind of degrading it. I don't want to use the word degrading, but yeah, Akshad, am I right in that?
yeah, absolutely. You're right.
But Duke,
That's,
but with Duke, it's different. The average work experience is 7 to 8 years for most of the people. Yeah.
right. Now, very quick question, Akansha. Here's one interesting question that I saw. Can you talk about your scholarship scenario? So you spoke about the fact in the second year when you applied, you got scholarship. So can you speak a little bit more about that? What criteria? How much scholarship did you win? Why did you win that scholarship?
Oh, why I
Don't know.
probably Akshat
Okay.
would be able to tell
Sure.
why I got it because my essays were great, I would say, because Akshat helped me with those. But I got a full GRA at Georgia Tech. So Georgia Tech doesn't give scholarships; they essentially give you graduate research assistantships. So basically, what it entails is you work for a couple of hours every week or so, and your tuition is taken care of. So
Yeah.
that was my scenario at Georgia Tech. At Georgetown, I got 90K, and at Notre Dame, I got a full scholarship. So that was the scene. At Duke, I don't have that great a scholarship. I do have some. So yeah, but when I compare it to the tuition, it's very less.
Okay. So, folks, I'll speak from like a general point, right? The way scholarship decisions are made, number one, no one knows it, right? Even I don't know it. Even the ADCOM members don't know it. The reason is that there is something called as endowment fund for the school, right? So every year, school has a certain endowment money which is chipped in by the alums. Now, if that money is big, then more scholarships are given. If the money is not there, then less fewer scholarships are given. So that's point one. Okay, and that is the reason why no one knows about how exactly scholarships function and the amount of money that will be given out. Number two, that is not something that you can control, but what you can control is that you apply well, right? I mean, try to get the best possible GMAT score or GRE score. Try to write the best possible essays. Try to do the best possible interview that you can. So if you optimize at every step, you will optimize your chances of winning the scholarship because they do look at merit. Okay, that's two. Number three, the years of work experience again does not matter at all, right? I mean, even if I've had clients who just had like 2 years of work experience, got into Stanford, got into Harvard, right? Things like that. So it doesn't matter from that perspective, right? So please don't assume that, hey, because I have like 10 years of experience, now let me make it 12 years of experience, I'll get more scholarship. No, it will in fact backfire. There's just a good range of work experience. If you become too experienced, then that can also backfire, right? So ideal time, if you have like 2 to 3 years of full-time work ex, start applying. There is nothing wrong. Final point about scholarship is that if you apply to more programs, your chances of scholarships improve dramatically. Now, you might read on the forums that, hey, as an American citizen, I'm applying to only 3 schools. It's fine because there is something called as co-signer loans, right? It's easy for Americans to finance their MBA. In India, if Indians are going abroad, then in majority of the cases, they might not find a co-signer. They will have to take a loan from Prodigy Finance. Uh, so therefore, winning scholarship also becomes an important criteria. So the more number of schools you apply to, so let's assume that you apply to 6, 7 schools, right, and you get into 3. Now it becomes easy for you to A, negotiate for scholarship to a certain extent, and B, the primary scholarship that will be given out to you might be higher. So please keep that in mind. These are very, very important points that you will not see on the forums, because on forums you will just go and read all the packaged information which is from all nationalities, but you need to take a look at the Indian nationality data, right, which you will not find very easily. Right. Okay, so now Akansha, final two, three, a couple of areas that we will quickly speak about, and then we will take some questions and close off. So first thing is that what are some of the best application practice that you have incorporated which help you succeed in this process? So if you can highlight like 2 or 3 key points that you have learned.
So the one that's on top of my mind is I would call it a sort of a framework. So basically, what I portrayed through all my applications and even through my interviews and everything was this is where I want to reach. Here's the number of skills that I have that will help me reach here, and here's the gap that the MBA would help me fill. So I essentially used this for all my applications, and it kind of worked out well for me because it was easier for the reader who was reading my applications or even my interviewer to understand what my thought process was regarding my goals and everything.
Okay, so that's one. Any other practice that you would like to share? Like how soon should you start writing or working on your essay? That's one question that we'll frequently get.
Oh, I would say as soon as possible because the earlier you start, the better are your chances to, improve it by the time it's time to send your applications. So I would say start. I think I took good 3 months for my first round of applications. Like right from the start of preparing my stories and then to actually get into writing my essays, then refining them and everything. So yeah, I took 3 months. For Duke, I did not need as much time because all my stories and applications and everything was pre-prepared. I was already in that kind of a mindset. My Duke essays were new because they did not ask for my goals and my leadership stories. They asked about my personality because they asked for 25 random facts about me and how I would contribute to the Duke community. That did not take a lot of time for me. So I think I built my Duke application in less than a month.
Okay. So one question that we are getting quite extensively is that, hey, how did you balance GMAT with work plus applications? So guys, almost everyone does it, right? I mean, it's not as if that you take a break to apply for business schools. You have to do it in conjunction with your full-time work and prepare for your GMAT in conjunction with your full-time work. Therefore, start planning earlier. Because if you package everything that, okay, I need to go to a business school next year and 2 months I need to get everything, it won't happen, right? So very important that you please think a little bit about your goals when you plan to apply abroad, because it's an expensive process, right? I mean, every application costs a lot of money also. round one versus round two, as some of you are asking that, hey, should we apply in round one versus two? You should apply in round one, right? The reason is that the chances of admits are higher. The amount of scholarship that is given out is higher. So from that perspective, very, very important to make sure that you are putting in your application early and in a timely manner where you have worked on it. Okay, so
Yeah.
Akansha, what
Another
is your
thing, while
viewpoint on?
filling your, yeah, sorry, go on.
Please continue. Please continue. Yeah.
Okay, so another thing on application, it happened to me in the first time around that I decided to fill in the details in my application, the online application, in the last day, and it got kind of difficult. So it will be really good if you start filling the online application also at least a week before the deadline. This is just from my experience.
Absolutely.
And also,
So,
one thing, in order to save your bucks for online, I mean, applications, it would be good if you join, webinars by the universities, because usually they waive off your application fee.
right. So very quickly about the round system. So when you're applying abroad, usually what happens is that, for example, in the US, majority of the colleges, you will start studying from September, right? So for example, if you are applying next year, then your classes will start in August, September of 2022. Now, in order to make it to that class, you need to apply this year in September, that is round one, or round two, which is usually January, or round three, which is March. So it's advisable to complete everything by September or January max. Good for tax returns. Okay. I'm very bad at filing taxes. So yeah, okay. I'll take that advice. Okay. Cool. So now some people are asking that the importance of LOR. So every document that you're submitting is important, Rahul, Deepti, including LOR, including resume, including essays, everything is important, right? So to cut the long story short, all the components of application are very, very important. Is 1 year enough to prepare for GMAT, GRE, and IELTS? So, Sanskriti, you don't need to prepare for all three. You need to either prepare for GMAT or GRE, and very few colleges ask for IELTS. And 1 year, so Kancha, how much time would you recommend for GMAT preparation?
Well, it took me months. It depends on your level of preparation and background as well, because usually folks who have engineering backgrounds are better in the quant section and it's easier for them. But for folks like me who kind of worked in publishing, the quant section was difficult, but the other section was a bit easier for me. I would say around 6 months is enough. For me, it was not, but generally speaking, for Indian students, it is 6 months.
Okay.
I mean, Rohan did it within 6 months, 6 or 7 months.
Right. Yeah. So it really depends, right? I mean, some people take like a month to prepare, some people take like 11 months to prepare, right? So, or year to prepare, and even after 2 years, there's no score, right? So, consistency is more important. But I genuinely feel that if you're preparing for 3 to 4 months, it becomes easy. Right? So that's the point. Okay. PVT, SHVT, please like drop me a message on LinkedIn. That would be easy. How do we justify gap years? So Teeny Pateria. So basically, how do you justify gap years? So number one, you should not have gap years, right? If don't let it escalate, that's one. If you have gap years, then do something productive, because you can't say that, hey, I was just sitting at home watching Game of Thrones, right? So that won't cut it, right? So even if you're freelancing, it's fine, right? I mean, if you have a Upwork profile going, that's fine. Create at least a portfolio of your work, create at least a personal website. All those things can be used to justify gaps on your work history. But you can't say, right? I mean, I'm just repeating this again, that you can't say that, I was just sitting at home, right? I mean, that would not cut it. Some people are asking about CFA, so I'll just quickly take that question. So, so you don't need a CFA to get into an MBA program. It is fine. It is just an additional degree, right? I mean, it strengthens your academic bucket. So, Akansha, I'll let you take this question. Is it necessary to work with NGO to build a profile?
I think it's not necessary. I have been involved with an NGO. It kind of shows things that you do outside of work. So as long as you have something to talk about yourself that is outside of work, that's fine. I don't think specifically an NGO experience would be more helpful to you.
Understood. Okay. So that's absolutely right. I mean, it's not a question of that, hey, do I just need to do NGO work? No, right? I mean, almost like 90% of the clients that I work with, they don't have any social impact experience because you need to just literally have a life outside work. That's the objective, right? I mean, you are talking about your professional stories, but at the same time, you need to explain that how would you be a good fit with the class. So are you someone who has joined Toastmasters? Are you pursuing some activity, right? I mean, be it like mountaineering, be it yoga, be it like, joining some club, right, in college, helping your juniors. It could be anything, right? Not necessarily social impact or non-profit management or volunteering or helping someone. Right? Now, okay, so Kancha, very quickly moving on to the last section. If you can chat a little bit about your interviews, right? How were your interviews? What were some of the key tips that you will share with our audiences there?
My interview experiences have been good. I don't think I did badly in any one of them. Oh yeah,
Mhm.
the first time around, I had an interview with CATS, where my interview did not kind of go that well because they caught me off guard with a question. But I would say if you have a few leadership stories well prepared, and of course, why you want to take up an MBA, why that particular school. These are the
Mhm.
two top questions that you would be asked for sure. And of course, prepare like a good intro for yourself.
Mhm.
And I think if you have 4 or 5 good leadership stories, you would be good to go. Along with that, I mean, you should be well prepared with a failureship story, your strengths, your weaknesses. So everything that you kind of introspected about while writing your applications, that
Mhm.
those would be the things that you would be speaking about in your interviews. So one thing that's really good is that mostly MBA application, I mean MBA interviews are not very intense. They are mostly conversational and mostly the AdCom members are very nice. So it's conversational and they wouldn't ask you any trick questions or anything like that. One thing I would say is prepare your stories in a kind of a star approach, like very quickly mention what the situation was, and then explain what action you took and then what were the results of your action. So if you put in all your, I mean, talk about all your stories in that framework, it will be really good for the other person to understand and they'll really appreciate you telling those stories in that way.
All right. Wonderful. So, guys, very quick note on interviews from my side. So, at MBA schools abroad, right? I'm again stressing on the word abroad. The way interviews in MBA colleges happen in India, that is very, very different. If you're applying to the US, Europe, Canada, then usually your interview will be done by a current student or a AdCom member in majority of the cases. And the interviews are very chilled out, right? So it's not as if that they are going to ask you super complex questions as Akansha was telling us. So prepare your stories well, prepare your resume well, right? Understand why you have written your resume. Can you justify every bullet point? And keep your communication structured, right? Some people get into the habit of speaking a lot, right? And it does not make sense. So don't fall into that trap. They are trying to sense your communication skill, whether you will be a good fit with the MBA class or not. As long as you do that, you will be golden and you'll be good to go. So with that said, Akansha, I think we are pretty much done with all the key topics that we were to discuss. Any final words that you would like to share? Any words of wisdom that you would like to share with audiences? And
Well, I
I
don't
think some
really
of
have.
your classmates are also here, by the way. Like not from
Oh, is
Duke,
that
but from your school. Yeah, yeah. So someone
Oh,
messaged
is
that
that
you're from like, yeah. Yeah. So
okay?
we were
Cool.
getting few comments. Okay. Yeah.
Cool, great. So, so I don't really have any words of wisdom, but I would just say believe in yourself. Even
Mm,
if you feel that you lag behind in any particular area of your work
mm,
or personal life, just know that everybody has some or the other weaknesses, and
mm,
business schools essentially want people to be a part of their classes, not robots or, perfect people who know everything and those kinds of things. They also want a diverse set of people. So just be confident, don't compare yourself with anyone, and then you'll be good to go.
Wonderfully summarized. So believe in you and believe in your journey, right? That's the message.
Yeah.
And I think that's a wonderful message. So guys, thank you so much. And what we can do is that we can stay for like a few more minutes and answer like a few last remaining questions that you might have for us. So we'll start looking at questions that you're sending us now. And meanwhile, I'll try to pick some questions that have been asked. Does placements differ from 1 year and 2 year? No, Raj, it doesn't. Like, I mean, same similar kind of companies recruit. You're doing. Thank you so much, Xavier. Checklist for introspection. No, Anani, it will really depend on your profile, right? How you go about introspection. If you're a CA already, so see, being a CA is good. Not being a CA is also fine, right? If you're an engineer, that is also good. Essentially, if you're applying for an MBA abroad, no one cares whether you're a CA or not, right? It's a degree, like similar to being an engineer or a physicist, similar to that. Okay, so there is no edge or not having an edge. Okay, so guys, I'll take a look at some of the questions. What counts as good quality work experience? So, Rishabh, it would mean that number one, the firm itself. For example, if you are working with like high impact, high brand value firms, that itself is very, very prominent. If then comes the quality of work experience in the sense that, hey, have you worked with the CEO of your firm or some senior leader? What type of problems you have solved for the firm? Are those impactful problems to solve, right, for your organization? So if you are keeping that in mind, then probably that would be defined as a good impactful work experience. How to start if you're planning for 2022 intake? So Akansha, you want to take that?
Well, the entire thing that we discussed was about how to start. So just know this, start right away. Don't think too much into it. If you've decided you want to go for an MBA, just start right away, please. Start as soon as possible.
So someone is asking a very interesting question. Did you have extra tension post your waitlist after Duke interview?
Extra?
Extra tension post your Duke interview.
Oh, no, actually, I was not tensed at all this time around. Like
Okay.
I said, this time around, I was neither tense nor nervous, nothing. And it usually happens with me when I'm least bothered about things, that good things happen to me. I think it's the same with everyone. So,
Absolutely. So, and the reason for that confidence was very simple, that Akansha already had an admit, right, from a decent college, right,
yeah.
which is again a top 22 college in the world, in the US, so which is very good, right? Now, Akansha, very quickly, can you share like why are you doing a second MBA? Why were you not, like, I won't call it being unhappy with your first MBA, but what are you looking forward to in your second MBA?
So first of all, my first MBA was specialized in oil and gas management, and moreover, it was from India, wherein most of the impact, effort was around academics, not really practical learning. But I wouldn't blame my MBA for that. I would blame probably myself. What made me take a decision to take a second MBA was I did not want to work in my current profile in the long term. I wanted to explore different industries, and I also wanted to explore different geographical areas rather than India. So those were my two top reasons, and that's why I wanted to apply for a second MBA, that too in the US.
So guys, okay, I'll speak like from a slightly different perspective from an MBA applicant, because I've done an MBA, right? I was an applicant, then I passed out from a business school, then I worked in the industry. So the bottom line that I would want to leave you with on this particular issue is that when we are students and when we are looking to just grow in our career, right, we are always thinking about our next step, that, hey, you know what, okay, let me get into this best college that I can get into because it will be awesome for my career, right? So you're just thinking about the very next step, right? That is probably the reason why we get so tempted with, like, completing our education as fast as we can, right? But what happens is that once you grow in your career, once you are like, my age, right? I'm not very old, by the way, but once you become like slightly more experienced, you start valuing experiences more, right? So from that angle, if you have like international experiences, if you have worked and experienced different cultures, it can aid to your personal growth as well. I'm not saying that this growth will not happen at all in India, but just the catalyst for growth is higher if you go abroad from that perspective. Right? So, okay.
Right.
All right, guys. So I think, Akansha, any final things that you would want to say?
I think you summarized it pretty well.
Good.
Yeah, I don't have any more thoughts now.
All right. Okay.
So,
So, guys,
there was
yeah.
one interesting question, by the way. I think you would be the right person to ask. Somebody asked if we don't have any extracurricular activities, should we even think about applying for an MBA?
You should think about applying for an MBA, but at the same time, start getting those extracurricular activities, right? There is no harm in building profile. That is what the entire session was about. That actually, Akansha built her profile in a way. She picked the right type of projects at work. She improved her GMAT. She, reanalyzed her stories, reworked it. That's the point, right? I mean, that's the story that we wanted to communicate, that you can actually move from like a 40th, 50th rank school to a top 10 school by doing all these basics, right? So, Abhay, we will have a separate webinar probably on that, how to prepare for GMAT. But I hope you found this video to be useful and, this entire episode to be insightful. We will definitely have Akansha join us again during her time at Duke. She can give us more insights into how her journey has been. And she can talk more about the job market. But for the timing, we really hope that you enjoyed this entire episode, right? Do send Akansha a connection request on LinkedIn. Akansha, you're available
For
on
sure.
LinkedIn? Okay, cool. So you can send this to Akansha, right? Send a request to Akansha, follow her on LinkedIn, right? And support her in her journey, cheer her up, right? And she will also support you. Okay, cool. All right. So thank you so much, and we will see you on the next episode.
Thank you so much, Akshay. I had a great time.
Same here. And thanks, guys. You can watch my YouTube channel also. Someone is asking MIM versus MBA. That's literally the video that I posted there. So entire thing is there. Okay. All right. Thanks, Akansha. Really, really helpful. Appreciate you taking out the time.